Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
One of the things that I've been exploring is the Gottman Institute.
Okay.
Now, we've pulled some stuff from them for different episodes, but their primary goal is to help us with better relationships.
Okay.
And so I am exploring, trying to find some time to squeeze in some of their trainings that they offer for mental health professionals. But I thought, well, how cool would it be to explore something that I ran across on relationships? And they call it, and it caught me by attention, and they called it the 4 Horsemen of relationships. Now, when I say 4 horsemen, what do you think of?
Apocalypse.
Exactly. And so that was kind of their whole approach, was the idea that the 4 horsemen, there are 4 things that we can do by either design or by accident that can cause us relationship problems.
Okay.
And the 4 that they identified, and well, I think I agreed with them, so I'll run them past you and you tell me what you think. But they identified 4 areas. 1, criticism. 2, contempt. 3, defensiveness. And 4, stonewalling.
Okay.
And no, not Andrew, or not Stonewall Jackson.
No.
But
that's where that comes from.
Yes. But we'll avoid a little history lesson today. But it got me thinking, because I've done these. I have engaged in these at different times. And so I thought maybe we could explore these 4.
Sure.
Because the Gottman Institute not only identifies these 4 as potential dangers or destructions to relationships,
sure,
but they also give us ways to combat that. How to, when you find yourself being overly critical, when you find yourself expressing contempt, being defensive in your responses, or not responding at all through stonewalling, how do you overcome that? How do you, A, recognize when it's happening, and B, how to address it?
Right.
So anyway, like I said, it kind of hit home to me because, by George, I've done these. And so I thought, we'll tackle the first one, criticizing. And golly, that is so easy to do. I know you're married to a wonderful lady that probably doesn't do a whole heck of a lot wrong. So I doubt, but
I would agree with that, and she would disagree. But, but yeah, I try certainly not to be critical of things. Here's the thing, right? Like for me, in my experience of life in my 50 plus years now, I find that I have no idea what somebody else is going through in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be critical of that, of what they're doing or how they're responding, I don't know why they're responding that way. And there may be some very valid reasons behind them and their thinking and why they respond the way they do. And so for me to be critical of them or to judge them in some way on the surface, right, because of that action is troublesome. I do this with students. I don't, you come in the morning as a student and you are kind of in a bad mood and you put your head down. I could just be thinking, you're just a jerk. Or I could be thinking, I don't know what happened to you this morning. Right? Like maybe you had a massive fight with your parents, or maybe you had, a car accident on the way to school. I don't know what happened to cause that reaction that they have. So I think there's always a caution, right, to stay away from criticism and think, I don't know what's going on with that person.
When you're correct, and we don't always understand what somebody's going through at that particular moment. But criticizing goes to a whole, it elevates a discussion, or not de-escalates. It lowers the conversation to a horrible level because you are attacking that person. They're basically all the way down to the core of who they are. Especially when you use, well, you always or you never.
I hate those absolutes.
Mm-hmm. And so with criticism, it is, I find that I can do this very well. And it's something that I need to work on. I've been working on, and I don't think I do it nearly as much as what I used to. But it is so easy to criticize somebody with what they're doing, basically.
Right.
And when you're talking about somebody you like, somebody you care about, somebody you're in a relationship with, especially, your significant other, it is super easy to criticize.
Right.
And so I think if we recognize that there's a difference between a critique and a criticism, I think then that might help us quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so, again, it is, and I don't think that they put these 4 in any particular order, but criticism is, again, the first of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things that can help us is, one, recognize when you're being overly critical.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, I guess I should have explored this a little deeper, but I sometimes wonder if our criticism of someone else is more a criticism of ourselves.
I think it's a reaction, right? I think we have a reaction that is like a base human reaction. You're, as a counselor, you're into psychology and all that. You're probably more familiar with the parts of the brain, but my understanding is something like the limbic part of your brain would be like going back to like the base parts of humanity where you're just kind of reacting to what's taking place.
True. That is true. And sometimes that criticism is, and sometimes that criticism comes from a boiling over of issues where you have, rather than addressing them, you've let them build, and then you blow up like a mountaintop.
Mm-hmm.
And then all kinds of horrible things come as a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm fortunate that in my relationship with my wife that we have a bit of a more open conversation that takes place. I'm not saying that we can't lean towards criticism, right, even after so many years together, but I think we recognize when it's happening more than we used to, and that becomes less and less.
I will say that I know I have. Yeah. I know in marriage number 1, there was a lot of criticism going both directions.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not a very positive thing.
Sure.
Because when somebody accuses you of something, you always or you never. Well, now we're going to become defensive.
Well, it's hard to love somebody who's attacking you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to be loved by somebody if you're attacking them.
Well,
so
exactly.
I mean, as a horseman, right? It's an absolute block from what you actually want out of a relationship, which is the love.
Thank you. And sometimes your relationship, that love that you have for each other, is, instead of being expressed positively, is coming out negatively. So when you criticize me, well, then I'm going to automatically go on the defense.
Right.
Well, I don't always, or what do you mean I never?
Sure.
And so that's why the Gottman Institute throws in defensiveness as then another of these horsemen of apocalyptic relationships. And so I think it is a natural response that when you attack me, I'm going to become excessively defensive. And like, you ask me a simple thing, did you do this today? Well, you thought you're asking me a question that seemed pretty benign, and I take it as a criticism, and I just explode all over you, going, what? It's not what? Like, I've been sitting here all day twiddling my thumbs, being on my phone. I've been freaking busy. I've been doing this. I've been doing this. I've been doing this and doing this. And no, I have not had time to do what you just asked.
From my perspective, then, it's just you're under too much stress.
Well, Can be, yeah.
Right? But if I'm being critical, I don't care about that.
Well,
and there's the problem, right? Criticism tends to take you to a place of not actually caring.
No, and that is absolutely correct. And that's why I think that with defensiveness, we get, it raises our hackles a little bit.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard for us to be open to listening. It shuts down our listening skills, and we're automatically ready to attack. And so, again, the defensiveness ties in real well with the criticism.
Absolutely.
Which then I think leads into the third horseman they address, which is contempt.
Okay.
And I know, with the benefit of hindsight, looking back, in marriage number one, there was a lot of contempt. Me for her and her for me.
Okay.
And the communication wasn't really, especially there the last year, 18 months, there was a lot of sarcasm, mimicking, negative body language, where you're over dramatizing things. And there was a lot of ridicule. It was just, the contempt was becoming very, very noticeable, and which contributes then to more defensiveness and more criticism. And so when you're engaged with this contempt, it's instead of helping solve problems, you're making your partner, you're making that other person in that relationship feel as though they're worthless, feeling as though they're being despised by you. And again, it's there's a lot in these relationships, there's a lot of love there, but it's not coming out in all the right ways. It's coming out in all the wrong ways.
I'm curious, based on some of what they say about physical stuff relating to that, and the book that I had previously read about The Body Keeps the Score. I'm curious, in your experience in that marriage number one, where you had that contempt for each other, especially in those last days, what was your did you have any physical issues? Were you sick? Was either of you, were you manifesting any kind of physical reaction to that?
The physical reactions, she had a lot of health issues. She had diagnosed health issues, but she would lay in bed for days or even weeks at a time. I don't know how much was real and how much was her avoiding me or avoiding Eric or avoiding the responsibilities.
But what about even things like just like colds, flu, anything like that? Was there?
I know that in looking at what you're asking, thinking about that, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I felt that I was coming down. I was more often having, allergy type responses, runny noses, lots of sneezings, more than I usually do. And
which is interesting, because what they're saying at the Gottman Institute about this contempt is that people who are contemptuous, right, where there's the relationships where you are contemptuous like that, that it actually lowers your immune system. It weakens your immune system. And so you actually have a physical response to this. So it's not just about how you feel emotionally. That emotion manifests itself in your body and actually, causes you to be more susceptible to those illnesses and things. And which of course carries over into, now I can't be at work and I can't do these things. And so it takes you on a spiral that's, health is more than just going to the drugstore to get the medicine, right? Sometimes you got to take care of that underlying issue. And in this case, it's the contempt.
Well, I never thought about it before, but in reading through their stuff here, one of the things that they commented on, and I know that this was very true, but contempt, when you have a lot of contempt for your partner, it is the single greatest indicator of a pending divorce. And if you want to avoid that, and I highly would recommend that, Well, then again, address some of these things that are leading to this contemptuous. Thank you. I was right the first time. So that you can fix it. Yeah. Because nothing is beyond repair if you want to fix it.
Yeah.
Which is why the fourth horseman is kind of important too, and that is stonewalling. And it is usually our response, I guess, to contempt. You don't want to fix the problem, so what do? You withdraw. You shut down. You ignore your partner. In all my years with the divorce group, this is what we heard, or I heard anyway, so much was a withdrawal.
Yeah.
Or, well, they just ignored me, or they were never around. They always found excuses to be gone. And, it was because you're stonewalling the issue. Rather than face the issue, address the issue, you are ignoring it. You're walking away from it. And so, it's kind of, I think it's easy to do. I think stonewalling is an easy defense mechanism.
Sure.
Because fixing a problem is hard. And when you get to this point in a relationship, there's so much bad blood between the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
So much water has gone under the bridge that it's hard.
Yeah.
But if it's something you want to do, it is mendable. The bridges can be rebuilt and reinforced. You don't have to do divorce.
I think that, as humans, we like to do the easy thing.
Yes.
Right? We like to do the easy thing. And sometimes the easy thing seems to be, just don't pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just ignore that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes down to, driving through the city. This happens in Florida a lot. Driving through the city and you see like those, almost like a political sign, right? Like a yard sign thing, but it's an advertisement in the middle of the intersection and it says divorce, $99. I mean, and that's laughable, right? Like if you think divorce is only going to cost you $99,
you are sadly mistaken.
I will take your money. But this idea that, we like the easy way out. And so sometimes that's the easy way. And then once you start doing this stonewalling, the easy way, might be to get your needs met somewhere else. And that's going to cause some additional problems. And this original relationship you had is going to end. And that's not going to be easy. It's not going to be simple. It's not going to be, anything like you think it's going to be, probably. So, I just, the easy solution is fix it.
Yeah.
That's the easier solution, I should say. Is to fix it most of the time. Now, granted, there are definite situations where people should not be together, right? Like, I mean, if you're being abused, physically, sexually, emotionally, I mean, those kinds of things that's very problematic. I mean, you want to try to fix these things first, but, I think that those are areas where you definitely need to consider, a different way. But if you're just having arguments, right? And you're just stonewalling and you're just mad because they didn't, cook dinner the right way or, they spent some extra money. Money's such a big problem, right? In marriage. We can get very upset about those things and then you start just like backing off and being like, I'm just not going to pay attention to you anymore.
And
that's the worst thing ever.
Oh, amen. And here's what I love is we can address these four horsemen. All right. If we're going to, if your partner is criticizing, or if you find that your first response in your mind before you even utter those words is criticism.
Yeah.
Then restructure what you want to say. Because again, if you want your message to be heard, listen to and get a positive response, then how you start can be all that matters.
Absolutely.
And it starts with an I statement.
I statement.
Instead of saying you always, start with this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. What you're doing is taking ownership and allowing, you're not attacking that person. You're identifying how what is happening is being processed by you.
Right.
And it's a little intimidating because you are putting yourself out there. You're opening yourself to potential attack, but at the same time, in using I statements, this is how I'm feeling. When you said this or when you did that, this is how I felt about it. This is what I heard you say.
So you're opening up the perception. You're saying, well, this is what I'm, this is my point of view on this.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm experiencing or seeing or feeling. And that, I think that gets to, that thing we always throw out there from Stephen Covey about seeking first to understand, right? Like we're just trying to understand what's happening. And here's how I understand it.
And that is,
how are you understanding it?
And that's the whole point. You want to be understood. When you are making a statement, when you are trying to explain, you want that other person, especially in a relationship you care about, you want them to understand you.
Right.
And so as a result, that I statement works way more effectively to get you a positive response than a you statement.
Right.
Or again, with the divorce,
think reflective stuff works too, right? That can be reflective. Or I'm saying, what I'm hearing you say is this. Is that accurate?
And when you do that, now you can challenge that defensiveness. All right, you can take responsibility,
right?
Because again, defensiveness is our protection. All right, from what we feel as a personal attack. All right. And so this way with defensiveness, instead of saying, well, it's not my fault, it's yours, you can say, I accept that.
Sure.
Can we be a little more flexible?
Right.
These are the kinds of things, that way you can, again, you're expressing yourself. In a way, but it is more open rather than closed. I know in teaching, I know in counseling, they talk about giving open-ended questions.
Right.
Well, that's kind of what this can do, is give you that open-ended response. Because by taking responsibility for your part, and that was one of the things that, we do in our divorce group, is talk about we all have a part to play. It might only be a small little part, but we have to take ownership. All right. It's not all them bad and all you good.
Right.
And so by taking some ownership, taking some responsibility of the part you played in the problem, then you're able to help combat that defensiveness. So that way, again, you're lowering that temperature of the conversation.
Yeah.
And so I like that, because that, if you can reduce that criticism with the I statement, then you can lower that defense mechanism or that defensive response.
Right.
And then when you take responsibility for your part in whatever's causing some of the conflict, now you are getting to a point where we can have a real conversation, and maybe we can get actually to a workable solution.
Sure.
And if we can get there, what do you think that does to contempt?
Well, I'm sure that definitely lowers that, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the point.
But then how do you get beyond the contempt?
Well,
there's got to be an antidote for contempt.
Well, and you're right. There is. Because when we're talking about contempt, a lot of times it can be that sarcasm.
Sure.
It can be eye-rolling, name-calling. It can be
But I'm so good at
mockery.
sarcasm.
Oh, yeah. Mine is more...
My sarcasm never ends up with anybody being mad at me.
Really? Because I am the opposite. In fact,
I'm totally lying.
Okay.
I'm absolutely being sarcastic at the moment.
Well, because sometimes...
See how well it doesn't come across?
Well, I told you before that I've been accused that my sarcasm is more hurtful than comical, because I will say that, yes, sometimes it is hostile humor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's meant to be exactly what it's delivered as. You're sometimes it's not. Sometimes I really think I am being funny and it's not coming across. So some of the responses, some of the antidotes is to build a appreciation to build respect within that relationship.
So I have to find something good about the other person. Is that what you're saying?
Well, kinda, because they're saying do small things.
Sure.
To help address that contempt, one, recognize what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you are engaged in sneering or mockery, or you're just overly critical or cynical, I guess would be a better way of saying that, then try to overcome that with expressions of appreciation or gratitude or affection. And in fact, the Gottman Institute calls it a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions.
Yeah.
And when they do that, they actually call it, and I'm using their terms, not mine, a magic ratio.
Okay.
So that way, like the example they give, I'm going to use theirs because I can't think of one that's any better. And because, again, it relates to your dishwasher story.
Sure.
You forgot to load the dishwasher again. You are so incredibly lazy. Eye roll.
See, now the problem isn't that you forgot to load it. It's that you're doing it wrong.
Exactly. So the better way to address that, I understand you've been busy lately, but could you please remember to load the dishwasher when I work late? I would really appreciate it.
Sure.
The message, you're asking the same thing, but it's not just what you say, but in how you say it. And by doing so, by using their 5-to-1 magic ratio of positive to negative statements, you're building what I've called, and they do too, an emotional bank account. You're putting in more deposits than withdrawals. So that way, that contempt, even if you feel that contempt, you're not expressing that contempt. And therefore, you're helping combat that. And your emotional response can be reduced.
I think that the positives, too, are like oftentimes couples in particular, and certainly children, right? Like there's an expectation of certain roles that are going to take place in the home, and we forget to thank anybody for it, right? I mean, I'm just going to admit, like, I don't clean the bathroom.
Yeah.
And my wife does all the time. Do I thank her for it? I don't think I do enough.
No.
Right? I mean, it's not just her job, right? She gets on me. I like to make dinner a lot. I just enjoy it. I like it. I like exploring new recipes and things like that. And she feels like sometimes that's not, that she's not doing her job. And I'm like, but it's not your job, right? Like we just do things as we live together, right? And I just happen to like making this meal, so I'm going to do it. And maybe sometimes she gets so busy because she's an elementary school teacher, which is insane, that I just do a lot of that kind of stuff at night because she's tired. And I'm not. So it's just,
no.
But then there's an appreciation of, I really appreciate that you swept the floor, right? I mean, there shouldn't be an expectation in the relationships that everybody's going to do the same things all the time, and that's your job, right? I think that appreciation, a culture of appreciation, right, goes a long way,
and that can help. And again, we're trying to keep things from becoming a big blow up fight. You're hitting things when they're small, addressing things before they become massive.
So what do we do about that fourth one?
Okay.
As we're running out of time.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. So stonewalling, again, that is our natural response. When you can reduce that amount of hostility, the criticism, the defensive feelings, and of course that contempt you feel, now you're not having that emotional flood of negative emotions.
Right.
And you're not feeling so overwhelmed. And so therefore you're not disengaging, you're not avoiding, you're not hiding, and you're not looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the big thing. Stonewalling, if you can take care of the other three, then the antidote to stonewalling is to practice physiological self-soothing. Talk to each other, engage in the small things so they don't grow to be big.
Yeah.
And again, when you're stonewalling, it's because you're under so much pressure from all the different parts of our life that are creating chaos.
And I think some of that ties back to our last week's episode where we were talking about resting.
Right? Yes.
And we talk about doing that over the summer, but I think that, you need to find ways to do that all the time. My wife does it every morning. Mm-hmm. She has some quiet time for herself where she relaxes and rests and focuses. And I think that's important, right? That's kind of what we're talking about here. Find those self-soothing moments, and that way then you can focus a little better and maybe come at things with a little bit more rationality.
Well, one of the things that we do, that Sherry and I do a lot of times is before things really escalate, we'll stop. We'll take a break. Or in some cases, I will wait a couple of days for my emotions to lower so that way when I address something that happened that I wasn't a fan of, I can come at it in such a way that it's not coming across as a criticism. I'm not taking self-defensive reactions when she responds. And so we're coming at this with a less emotional response.
Right.
And so that's kind of what they're saying. But if even in the heat of an argument, one of the things that, one person can say to the other, like, for example, if your partner's coming at you with both barrels, a simple statement of, hey, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now and I need to take a break.
Right.
Can you give me, 15, 20 minutes and then can we talk about it then?
Right.
Because what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to emotionally take a step back, calm your heart rate down, and stop engaging with the emotional brain and allow yourself to engage with the thinking brain. And it can also help your partner do the same thing.
Right.
And so that way, that stonewalling you can overcome that.
Yeah.
So basically, we know these are the skills. All right. We've got them. I think we know them. We just got to use them. So when you're feeling, critical and you're verbally attacking your partner, or you're feeling yourself as, your personality or character being attacked, start using I statements instead. When you're feeling contempt, remind yourself of your partner's positive qualities and find gratitude in what they do. And when you're feeling defensive, start to accept your partner's perspective. And when you're stonewalling, or feeling like you want to stonewall, then do that. Take a short break and then try it again.
All right.
So
sounds good.
So I hope that these will help your relationship with those that you like to have a relationship with. So avoid the 4 horsemen of the apocalyptic relationship.
Okay.
So thank you, good. Gottman Institute. So anyway, until next time, I'm Rod.
I'm Scott.
See ya.
Bye-bye.